Today is a big day for me. I finally get to reveal a secret to all of you, like releasing a T-Rex into its enclosure for the first time. Hello again there, friends and fans. Raptor here, and welcome to this channel's exclusive first look at gameplay for Jurassic World Evolution 2. A few weeks ago, the developers invited me over to play their campaign mode and their challenge mode for this upcoming game, which releases on November 9th, 2021. It'll be coming out for Steam and PlayStation 5, PS4, Xbox Series X and S, and also Xbox One. So get ready for the big release. Oh yes, it's coming very soon, and I'm very excited. I played less than 2 hours of the upcoming game, and with those two modes, I kind of have a little bit of a taste, but not really everything I wanted to see or experience just yet. There's a lot of things I like, some things that I really loved, and a few things that I think they could change, and I hope they do before its release sometime later this year. Now in the campaign mode, of course, it continues the story from the original game, and the predecessor brought together a lot of good talents and a lot of good voice actors and characters from the movies and previous series, and this one will continue it on a bit further, with the world being a little bit more different because of dinosaurs being such a more casual thing, a commodity, if you will. And so, of course, now the Department of Fish and Wildlife in the United States in this mission have to set up a little refuge and try to conserve them in their natural or somewhat natural habitat. The challenge mode, a little bit more like a free build mode, except there's limitations of what you would have in a day-to-day business, like trying to maintain a profit and keeping your guests happy, and still having to worry about money. It's not like it's endless and you can kind of do whatever you want. But there will be many more game modes, and also I'll be releasing more footage to this as well. If you want a non-curated or commentated experience, I'll be releasing raw around 2 hour footage of this, and also be live streaming it too to answer your questions that you may have. I've also played this with a few other creators as well, so you may see today some of your other favorites playing it, and so you'll be able to compare and contrast our thoughts and opinions on certain things in the game, and I'm excited just to play it again whenever it comes out soon. So, thank you very much for subscribing, thanks for being here and smashing that like button, and enjoy our first look at Jurassic World Evolution 2. I'll be joining you for some commentary from time to time and explain my thoughts and opinions on the game, and the challenge mode and campaign mode and their differences, and what I hope to see, and what I really hope they change. There's some things that are annoying, but I don't think it's something that'll really ruin the overall experience. Anyway, let's go to Jurassic World Park World. Here we go.
I wish we'd had more time to brief you, but as you know, the situation is fluid. Our Canadian friends are concerned that many of these wild animals are getting close to their border. We'd like to prevent them from crossing it. We being the CIR. My division is the DSD, Dangerous Species Division. I'm Dr. Dua. I have an extensive background in paleo research in this very field. At Jurassic World, and now other locations I'm not at liberty to discuss. However, I have history with many of the people involved here. A poacher camp. What remains of it, anyway. Amateurs. They only succeeded in getting themselves and others killed, and making our job that much more difficult.
Okay, welcome to Jurassic World Evolution 2. Finally, some gameplay.
Dr. Dua, the dinosaurs are still agitated.
Tranquilizing them would appear to be the best option at this point.
Let's do it as safely and quickly as we can.
So the first goal is to get these two to stop fighting and tranquilize them, and then put them into these temporary enclosures until we can make the park a little bit bigger. Essentially what's going on here is that government officials will visit our site and give us funding based on, they're basically guests, but reskinned to be government officials to give us money for taking care of the main task of making sure these dinosaurs don't get to Canada and don't hurt anybody else. We don't want an international incident of any way, shape, or form. So your typical building is here in terms of constructing your visitor center and your command centers and such. So we'll get those plopped down and then start building some fences too. In order to give any sort of commands, we have to have, of course, the command center down. That helps us to build other buildings too. There's a lot of research in this game too. Some which appear to be restrictive and don't allow you to do all the things you want to do at the start, which is cool. Like, that's the whole point of research, to make you think outside of the box, to solve problems temporarily and then go for a more permanent solution later on. So we got our command center here. Next to that, on the left side, that yellow building is a backup power generator that requires fuel in order to power our fences and our buildings. And it does have kind of an area of effect around it, We're also going to start plopping down some paths now and doing a little experimentation here to see what it's like. Is it similar to the previous game, or is it more like City Skylines, or more like Planet Coaster or Planet Zoo? It's certainly extra helpful when it tries to snap to your pathways. And again, keep in mind here, my time is very limited, just less than 2 hours that we get a chance to play. So a lot of my building will be hastily done, so that way we can at least see more of the dinosaurs. Here's some of our facility details. Again, we can see we're working for the Fish and Wildlife Service for the U.S. government, and there's other things we can review, like statistics about our dinosaurs and our guests and other types of usage and such. So there's our backup generator. One thing that really shocked me about this, and I hope it changes, though it's maybe possibly a temporary thing for this level of research, is that those backup generators actually need to have fuel purchased and supplied to them. It's almost like a mobile game or something, where when they're low fuel, a little symbol will pop up, and if you don't buy that fuel, you're the one responsible for it, so it could shut down your entire park or stop research. You wouldn't even know, by the way, if you were on the other side of the map doing something important.
The ones we've already captured.
Yep, that's right.
And we'll want them awake and as comfortable as possible.
Right. So anyway, other than that, there may be additional research that we can get, for example, like maybe solar panels or a windmill in order to have continuous power. We've now made a somewhat nice enclosure, and we have to get this bad boy put into the enclosure. Now, I'm trying to take a peek at what he requires, but then a storm hit. So, of course, we got to battle the storm as we're waiting for the enclosure to be built. Now, I cannot recall in the previous game, even now after playing it recently, whether or not enclosure fences are built immediately, but in this one, they're built in sections, and I was experimenting with the different levels of security to see if they would build any faster or any slower. Obviously, the larger a fence, the more time it may take to construct, and also the higher level of security. So, for example, a T-Rex requiring a fence that's a little bit more large than, for example, maybe a velociraptor or something. And there we go, a visitor center going down, at least an object for them. That would be the viewing center, which will allow our guests to, well, take part of the action of the feeding of the dinosaurs, or just them in their day-to-day life. Now, I'm hoping in the future, I didn't see it at the time, but I'm sure there's more options that I must have missed for more precise path building. So things like, for example, curved paths and angled paths are there, but I also want to make sure that I can build my own paths with a little bit more free building, like, for example, a wider path in certain more popular areas, and, of course, skinnier paths wherever there might just be some maintenance personnel or something, not as much foot traffic. You can see that area of effect for the power, and from my research, I think I can recall that the fences don't necessarily need to be all within the yellow circle. It seems inconsistent at the moment. I couldn't quite figure out whether or not a fence needed to be within the yellow circle, or if because one section of the fence is in the yellow circle, it powers the whole fence in an entire loop. Anyway, the storm is over. I don't know if that storm will actually affect, if it's just a weather effect that may affect the guests, or may affect the dinosaurs' health or well-being, or may knock out power. So I'm not sure if it's an event versus just kind of weather. But it's cool to see that we have storms and whatnot. So we're looking at details now for these dinosaurs, everything from their resilience to anything about their, like the environment that they want, or their social status, how many other dinosaurs they want. I think there's also a couple of little holes in my fence too, but that'll be squared away by the time we're done here. I'm also experimenting with upgrading the level of security. Here I tried to select what looks to be a level 5 fence, but it's actually a gate that's for level 5 security. So as I'm clicking on the fences here, I'm clicking fences, but it's trying to build a gate. And it seems like the gates are always a level 5 security level, no matter what, at least at the moment. There may be other gates to research. This could be mission restrictive too. So yeah, it looks like there was a little gap there between the fence, but we're all right. The next thing we're going to build, you may have seen just a moment ago, it looks like a little building, almost like a Wi-Fi building. And inside there, it can keep a track on your dinosaurs. I think the dinosaurs may have like a tracking chip in them, or some sort of a chip to report back their well-being, and so the rangers can patrol that and monitor that from their station. And now we're getting into building a little bit more of the enclosure, a little more details on the grass and the, as they call it, the painting, but, putting down things like sand and grassy areas, long grass or gravel, and it's pretty basic. It's similar to Planet Zoo in many ways, and the previous Jurassic World game, but it's nothing too bad, as, of course, there's a million different types of sand, and also clay and other types of soil. So it's not something that needs to be done, but it is nice to be able to do it. A little tricky too. to do this on the snow, you're not able to really see everything underneath that snow. So as I'm placing sand, because they prefer that to grass, you know, you can see the snow kind of melting a little bit, but it's hard to see what's underneath unless we remove that. But anyway, their health and condition should improve now that the Rangers are here. Remember, our goal in this mission is to get them back to healthy status and kind of preserve them in a kind of a private government-controlled facility, but also we want them to be happy and healthy, too, for additional research as needed. So their energy is increasing, health will continue to increase, and they should be fine. So everything here is now looking perfect. The area needs to be increased. So in this corner, we will eventually build ourselves another addition to the enclosure, but after a while, they will be happy, and we'll put a secondary dinosaur in here that we have to go and find. One of the missions will be to track down via some detective work another dinosaur that's escaped out in the wilderness, and we'll kind of have to track all these guys down and get them back here so we can monitor them and make sure they're okay.
Dangerous animals here. Correct, Mr. Finch. We know where they were. But now, Mr. Grady, it's essential that we know where they are.
I know my dinosaurs. I'd say they're headed off in this direction.
And do you know your dinosaurs, Mr. Grady?
Better than anyone.
But these are not your dinosaurs, per se.
Well, you're just gonna have to trust me on this one.
All right, so we're going to investigate our little dinosaurs a little bit, make sure they're doing okay, just kind of monitoring their health, and you can review that manually or build that Wi-Fi station, ranger station, little tiny building near their enclosure or inside if you'd like. These two looking pretty good, though. Time to analyze some clues, some rub markings from other dinosaurs. And as you can see, they beat up my truck pretty badly. They didn't like me being in their enclosure. Pretty funny.
This looks promising. You know, not that I'm promising anything.
Yeah, they literally ripped the door off of that car. I'll try to put some of that footage in of them beating up the truck as we're just in their enclosure looking at them. Oh boy, big boy. Ooh. Hello to you too. So the landscape is absolutely beautiful. The skybox is gorgeous. Nice to be in other locations rather than a tropical island or somewhere warm. Dinosaurs also being in North America and Canada and United States, etc.
Now move, move.
Owen, are you okay? What is happening?
Little busy right now.
Please tell me you have things under control.
Hi?
If it'll calm my anxiety, yes. I'm a bundle of raw nerves.
We're working the problem.
So another note is that we can fly and drive all the vehicles in the game. It's pretty nice. So obviously, just tranquilizing the dinosaurs here, nothing too special.
We're close. We have everything almost under control, but the animal is injured. We need to get her to a secure enclosure for observation and treatment.
I'll notify Dr. Dewar.
Oh, me? I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
So what we'll do now is we're actually going to build a facility to treat this dinosaur, this one being wounded, and the tranquilizing and the maintaining of their health is kind of an older feature of the game, but there's a newer feature where we now have to monitor sick dinosaurs who are very sick and try to get them back to health, which is actually kind of cool. Rather than just releasing them into the wild to get money, we also could treat them kind of at a very special veterinarian office and make sure that they don't suffer any more from their wounds, things like broken legs or large abrasions, that type of thing. We're adding more water now, so both of them can kind of share the same pool and drink from that. And the dinosaur will be on its way via the large transport helicopter. Cool thing now, too, I think in the previous game they would use a large helicopter for every type of dinosaur, but I think now there's a smaller helicopter that will transport smaller dinosaurs around faster, which is nice, because if you're trying to get a large group of little dinosaurs, typically what I like to do is build my my egg hatching center, whatever the technical term of it is, the hatchery, I suppose. Whatever I'm building there, I like to release into a temporary holdings area, enclosure, and then release them into another section of the park. Right now, I'm really liking building these two close to each other, and I think, in my opinion, campaigns like this are kind of meant more to teach you all the basics of the game with limited tools, so you kind of have to make do with what you've got, and then bring that out when you do sandbox or something like that. Our typical emergency shelter going down. And again, this is a government facility, so there's not going to be, it doesn't really have to be pretty. I do try to decorate a little bit with what I think to be local flora to try to attract local fauna, but that could be a bad idea with dinosaurs as well. But One of the things I haven't seen yet so far is the ability to decorate my park with lots of little plants and such. That's something I'm really hoping for this game, and I haven't yet seen it. I want to be able to put little bushes and little plants and such inside the paths, and that might be here. You may have seen that somewhere else. Please do let me know. But I haven't seen the ability to add a lot of the juicy little details that I want for a park that I'm so proud of. Building a grand entryway to your park with dinosaurs, your first impression of the entryway of the park, and the main way or the midway all the way into the center of the park and near the food court and whatnot should represent that. Here comes the big O dinosaur now. I forget the name of this one, but another carnivore that I accidentally put into these two enclosure, but we'll transport that pretty easily into the other one, which is pretty easy. You just, redesignate it over to this one and you're good to go. Now this dinosaur, when it arrives, there'll be a little cutscene here and we'll be told that we need to build a medical center that we'll need to fly that one to so they can do a appropriate surgery on that dinosaur just outside of its enclosure. So wounds that are so critical that we need to move it again.
Medical facility to assess the status of the dinosaur that they're bringing in. We'll need to do a full medical scan. I want to understand what went wrong if we're going to avoid an event like this in the future.
Right, so as a part of this campaign, that's one of the last goals we'll need to do is get this dinosaur back in working condition. And to pay quick attention to all the things I'm clicking on here. Again, we're frantically trying to click through and find anything and everything that might be new in the game, as we're also trying to complete the objective to move on to the free scenario, the challenge mode. Some of the other ticks and tats here from the developers, they gave me really 7 points to look at here. For example, that it introduces a range of new prehistoric creatures, including flying and marine reptiles, totaling then 75 different species in the game, and it's no longer contained solely to the Myrtis Islands. So, as I mentioned, North America, with Canada and United States in there, hopefully we get Mexico.
The problem requires is a new set of eyes. Let's hire a few scientists with the skills to diagnose these animals. Make sure they are competent with the MVU and can perform medical scans on the dinosaurs. I'm interested to see what we can discover.
Yes, the MVU, the medical vehicle unit, or something like that. There's a new vehicle that looks like an armored van. You may have seen before. I'm sure there's lots of big fans here who know everything about the new game, even though I got a chance to experience it. It's awesome.
So we should have a better handle on the dinosaur's medical status.
Hopefully we'll be able to figure out what went wrong.
Hey, if I've learned anything, it's that these animals are unpredictable. Like people.
He's
with,
right.
Bigger teeth.
Yeah.
True.
We should keep an eye on her.
Right. Who? Dr. Dua?
Yes. She's working for the CIA now.
Oh, you'll be pleased to know I'm running a little intelligence op of my own. Looking out for the both of us.
You're a lot more astute than you let on.
Smarter, too.
So the medical vehicle is going to rush in here and take a look at the dinosaur and assess it for injury.
Dino out. I'd suggest a tranquilizer, but you do you.
You'd think that you would tranquilize the dinosaur first before giving it a medical inspection, but in this case we just scan it with the vehicle, the van, and send over the rangers with the helicopter to tranquilize and then transport it to the helipad or the medical station at the medical thing we saw. There you go. Facility resources just had to purchase some fuel. It lasts for what seems to be an in-game year or so, but if you think about building a large park and not having any sort of upgrades for the power just yet, that's probably one of the first things you want to upgrade because it kind of interrupts a lot of your gameplay at a certain point, especially if you're busy building. And like I mentioned, if you don't notice it, it's bad times.
Dinosaur, temporarily. Let's get it transported to the Paleo Medical Facility, where we can treat its injuries.
Okay. Now, another thing, too, is that your scientists, just like in the original Jurassic Park movie, can become, or many of the movies, can become disgruntled and then will try to sabotage your park if you try to work them too much. So you hire scientists to do research, but if you ask them to do their job too much, which you're paying them to do, they'll sabotage your park, and there's a level of disgruntled employee that you have to manage, which I find to be more restrictive than the power, as you have a limited number of staff that can go out to A, do research, and B, go out and try to find some of those eggs and other types of fossils and preserved dinosaur DNA that you can make more dinosaurs with, or at least a more viable genome. So the They're spray painting the dinosaur here. I think the animation here could be a little different. It would be really cool if a team came out, a couple of guys in biohazard suits with a clipboard or something like that, performing actual surgery. But the first aid spray from Resident Evil, I guess, makes an appearance in Jurassic World Evolution 2. These are very minor things that I don't think really will matter too much in the gameplay. These are just things that are, you know, just kind of cool to see and would improve, I guess, the overall detailing of the game. But if you're going to put in small details like that, I also want to see little lamps that I can put in, fences, and more things for the guests to kind of walk past other than just an endless fence with a lot of grass nearby.
Preferably someplace comfortable.
Always works for me. Same for the dinosaurs, I'd imagine.
You imagine correctly.
Not according to my ex.
Yes, moving on then. We want to have the animal transported and then secure and comfortable in its enclosure, if you please.
Okay. All right, so the storm passes yet again, and we have more of these substations. I really wish I could build power lines, too. I'm wanting a lot more little things in this game that I think would make maybe perhaps a big difference, especially if it were something I were building. If I were responsible for the power, which I am in the game, it would be nice to be able to build power lines. And again, these things could be here. I'm basing this off of just 2 hours of gameplay. But these are things that I'm hoping that are in there and wish that they're adding at some point if they're not in there originally. But it's not something that I think is going to hinder my experience too much of building a lot of solar panels around the park rather than just a bunch of, power plants. So the dinosaur will walk around and will go to your viewing platform. Very typical of their type of behavior. And mission complete. There we go. So we nursed that animal back to health and released him back into his enclosure, and everything's hunky-dory.
We'd worked to make sure the dinosaurs would thrive in the forest. At first, I believed this was for the best. Then we realized that forest makes up about 1/5 of the total land mass in the U.S. and almost 40% of Canada's wilderness. Working together with the DFW and the CIA, we made the dinosaurs feel right at home. In the forest.
Very nice. Okay.
Oh, and do check out the entire site, because you may well find something that can bring in the masses.
So now we get to experience much more of the game. The free build mode. The challenge mode, really. It's the exact name of it. Now, players can experience 4 game modes, including a new and original campaign mode, which follows the events from the Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom. The player will lead efforts to control, conserve, and contain dinosaurs now in the wild. So that's another point of interest for the new campaign modes, or the new game modes, including the campaign. Now, we get to build things a little bit more freestyle here, though it is challenge mode. And I'll go over some things that I think are going to be rather challenging, not because of the situation of us trying to contain and protect dinosaurs and to, of course, turn a nice little profit off of them, but also that might actually slow us down in our enjoyment of the game. So there's a lot of good here and a few things that I wish were different, but no real shade here. I think these are things that a lot of people can either manage around or that can be patched out later on if enough people seem to agree. So one thing you may have noticed when I was building enclosures previously, though we didn't cover it for too long, is when we build pathways, and again, I don't know if this is actually in the previous game, but they're placed down one at a time. And I don't mean the sections that I'm laying blueprints for, but as they're constructing it, you can actually see little sections of the fence line kind of being, popping into the world rather than just being immediately there when we put it down. Now, that's actually kind of cool. That'll prevent you from, containing. I think the purpose of that is to stop a dinosaur breakout by just building fences around it. And it also simulates actual construction time, just similar to the buildings where when you put a building down, they'll need to be constructed over a period of time. Fences, too, once the perimeter is decided upon, need to be installed. Now, we've got our first enclosure there and some viewing sections for our dinosaurs. and we'll be adding a second and a third one. My goal here in this challenge mode is to try to show you guys, this is what I was thinking, is to try to show you guys as many dinosaurs as I could in the shortest amount of time. So we're not as worried about, like, for example, the dinosaurs' longevity or DNA or their, their camouflage skin color or whatnot. We're going to try to just pump as many of these bad boys out as quickly as we can. And it actually turns out pretty good. We do get a few camos in there. I do have a little extra time to do that. So I'm just trying to rush to do this as quickly as possible. Now, in that previous campaign, I felt really constricted and not as creative as I wanted to be, which is fine. That's a campaign mission, and we're doing the government work, which is basically get it done for as cheap as possible, and we did our mission. But here I want to make a park that tries to appeal to the masses, to everybody, where they can come and see these dinosaurs. And we're now in Canada, too, so we do have to worry a little bit about the weather and such. So the ability to see our dinosaurs from inside is important as well. Incoming transmission then about fulfillment, shopping, and other types of goals that we have to do. So we can pick one here, like take a picture for $250,000, that type of thing. Now it is time to release our first dinosaur. We get to make our very first dinosaur in the game, and it looks like most of these are okay. We'll have to pick a scientist then, and this job can be increased in speed by choosing more than one scientist, or a scientist that has the specialty of the hatchery or a specialty of searching for fossils. Oh, that beautiful music. Very nice. So in order to get more scientists, we need to do upgrades. In order to get the upgrades, we need to have scientists spend their time doing that. So the park really seems to take a long time to get started, which is good. You don't want to be over quickly. You don't want to just build a bunch of fences and throw them in there and call it a day. You do want to kind of meld with the terrain and try to kind of fit things into these valleys and really try to entertain the guests in a very small area, too. There are monorails in this one. There are, of course, there's marine wildlife and such. And I'll read another thing here from the little pinup that they gave me. Jurassic World Evolution 2 embraces a host of advancements, updates, and new mechanics, and most importantly, dinosaurs. Builds off the most successful and loved features of its predecessor and adds an extensive variety of brand new content, challenges, and species. We're also introducing a new game mode called Chaos Theory. Oh, and we'll talk about that in a moment. Oh, there's some chaos. Oh, they're ready. Very nice. Our first little dinosaurs.
The alpha. Seeing dinosaurs establish dominance. This is the very foundation of evolution. The authority of the strong.
Thank you, Dr. Wu. Now we'll go ahead and put in some water, and we'll put in...
Look at this latest dinosaur, the Struthiomimus.
Ooh.
And tell me you don't see a connection. This is one of the more bird-like dinosaurs that we've brought back from extinction. It literally has a beak instead of teeth. It's an herbivore that prefers to move in herds. Overall, a fantastic addition to the park.
Okay, so we're going to try to put in things for the herbivores and also carnivores. I'm going to try to briefly mix them together just because I don't have time to build like a holding cell or an enclosure for all of our initial dinosaurs. So I'm quickly going to have a helicopter on standby to tranquilize any new dinosaurs that are released and then put them into the new enclosures. Now we're moving along quickly, but as I was mentioning, the Chaos mode, the Chaos Theory mode, which allows players to relive key moments from their favorite films, but with a twist. These levels are what if scenarios for players when they're in control. So essentially you can relive the events of Jurassic Park or Jurassic World and do, I would assume it's probably more for the latter than the former, but both could be involved since, Dr. Ian Malcolm makes an appearance in the game as well, or at least he promoted it, and will likely be in this one too. So lots of things to discuss. I'm excited to talk about a lot of this stuff too live in the live stream and also, of course, in the future when it fully releases. We're going to add some more power here. We are short a little bit of power, and we'll need to pump a lot more of that out for all the facilities we're putting in, all the science facilities and whatnot. Still takes a while to get all these genomes together for all of your dinosaurs. It will take a bit of time to collect all the DNA, then assign a hatchery. Hatcheries can now make a few dinosaurs at a time and release them at once. I don't remember that being a feature in the previous one. I did try to look for that. Correct me if I'm wrong down below. Please do. And but I do like the fact, at least, that if that was in the previous one, it is here or new, where we can create a group of velociraptors, release them at once, and then put them all into their enclosure at the same time, too. Although all dinosaurs have to be transported one at a time. I would like to see a little truck with a little couple of cages on it or something that could deploy them then into an enclosure all at once, and it'd be a cool release process. But hey, I'm just a fan thinking of new ideas that I think would be cool because that's why the name is Raptor on the channel, baby. It's because I saw Jurassic Park back in the day and thought they were pretty sweet. So now here we are. Now we're literally, wow, it's come full circle. Now we get to build parks yet again in Jurassic World Evolution. This one, the sequel, being pretty good, though, I must say. I really want to play this campaign and then use all those campaign skills in free build. There's going to be a lot of things that I sometimes don't know how to put into my park. If you have this problem, too, of having, like, the hotel and the monorail and a bunch of restaurants, and sometimes you run out of space for your park, being a theme park or an amusement park, you know, not only are people here to see dinosaurs, but they may also want to grab a meal and maybe learn something, a thing or two at a cinema inside. So there's our viewing station. No dinosaurs really over here yet, but we are trying to get some carnivores up and some more herbivores before our time runs out. And we're trying to jump through things and see these as quickly as possible. An interesting game mechanic of the sabotage and such from employees. Here I'm trying to just kind of peek through some of the research, see what we've got. For example, we do have the ability to make arcades, and we can build some more food. And there you see we have some nature modules and such that can go inside the restaurants to appeal to different levels of clientele. There's different types of people who will come to the park who are interested in different things. Similar to, you know, with a theme park tycoon of any type, there's people who want thrill rides, people who want roller coasters, slow rides, or just to see some of the scenery and be with family. And it may be the same here. So those are indicated with some of those other symbols in green, yellow, orange, white, and I was just clicking through to see what they did and later learned about that. Now, again, I want more customization for these buildings. I really want to be able to decorate the entryway, and there's definitely ways to do that, but sometimes decorating in this game and the previous one does feel like decorating in SimCity 2013 versus City Skylines, where you have a great idea, but you do have to work with the game's systems in order to try to get it done. So if you want to build a beautiful restaurant, you can make a path a little longer and put some trees around it, but sometimes it can be random as to whether or not that'll work. And do the guests want to walk an extra 10 meters or something like that to the restaurant? I guess it'll be remains to be seen. So I think here we have 2 enclosures, possibly 3. We've got one of them already filled with dinosaurs. We're looking for more. You can see a lot of the locations in North America that we have at our disposal, and they look, well, to be somewhat the same in the actual game itself, or, well, in real life in the game itself. All right, so helicopters are bringing guests in and tranquilizing and taking care of all of our dinosaurs. I think eventually we can upgrade to have multiple ranger vehicles and helicopters too. There's only one landing pad, but we may be able to add onto the building. That is one thing I praise developers for, is anytime that they make it so we can customize a building and add to a pre-existing building and modify it to better fit our clientele, as there are some of those features in here, the better. Rather than making 2 or 3 or 4 shops to appeal to our clients, why not, or our guests, why not build like one large building, one large thing on the corner, a multi-story building, for example, with on the first floor a convenience store, a second floor a restaurant, and the third floor a gift shop, for example. All right, well, there's one of the little things that's new, the ability to place down what is our ability to monitor these dinosaurs via our ranger teams. They can then kind of jack into that monitor station and review the dinosaurs without having to drive to each individual one to see their status. It can be quite tedious when you've got, for example, a large pack of herbivores that are really rambunctious and, you know, it takes a lot of extra time for the driving back and forth. We will be purposely trying to anger our scientists, too, to see exactly what happens when they do become disgruntled. From what I see from the game's loading screen tips, anytime that an employee becomes angry, they can do things like, for example, opening a gate, sabotaging a gate so it opens up and has a cooldown time as to when it can be closed again, or shutting down power to the entire park or a small section via sabotaging a generator or some sort of an important building. So definitely don't want that to happen. We're also trying to build our enclosures here around the power units. Obviously, the dinosaurs, probably not a good idea to, you know, let them exposed to a power unit or something like that. Not good to be in the same area. Okay. Well, we've got all of our details about these dinosaurs and what guests like and what they want to see. It's good to see all these details. And there's some more research to be done. And trying to see all these myself again. I see mostly seems to be related to guest services under amenities. Things like food, for example. But I do know hotels are here. Ice cream machine. Well, that's definitely not a McDonald's, and this one's actually going to work. Ooh, shots fired, extra shade. So we're putting in a fish tank, an ice cream machine, and a fossil display. Again, to try to appeal to all sorts of different customers. Nice detailing on the building, though. There's dumpsters in the back, a small fence, things to try to keep the immersion for guests. Parkitect, for example, does a very good job of making it so that way there is kind of a world hidden behind the scenes. And this game has the same, where, for example, we have dinosaurs that are being taken care of and being produced in facilities behind the scenes. But those scenes are interesting. Obviously, nobody wants to see trash being thrown away and how food is shipped into the park. But it certainly is interesting when a dinosaur is being fed a bunch of food. And, yeah, it's quite an amazing sight, I could imagine, to see. We'll be placing a few more things inside and around these structures. I'm also trying to expand our current ones to try to give them a little bit more space to live. Seems like the dinosaurs, as you would imagine, aren't really that small, and they want to run and hunt and have a large area to thrive in. These are quite bigger than Planet Zoo, for example, so the guests really have to walk a long way around the park. Luckily, I was kind of able to manage a hub in this game. We now have a park rating of 1 and almost 1/2 stars, so that's very good. We got a dinosaur that died, too, up top. I think the problem was lack of food at some point. Try to get as many of these in as we can. But again, we're under extreme pressure to get things done. It almost feels like a campaign mission to try to see how much, how many dinosaurs we can fit into the enclosures and into the park before the end of like a year, which would be a cool scenario too. How quickly can you go from zero to something by starting from scratch? So I like the look of the buildings. The dinosaurs seem to really react quite well. My thought is, how will this game then compete with other games coming out like Prehistoric Kingdom? How does it compete with like Parkosaurus, or how do people feel?
Dinosaurs to fight? No. But do they want to fight? For some, it is what they were born for, what they live for, and what they're willing to die for. That is a purity that few humans have.
Yeah, so as I was mentioning, I'm wondering how all these other games will kind of blend together with their good features. Obviously, some games have a feature that's so good I want to see it in every other, but also I want them to stand apart too, so they feel like you're not just playing a separate version or a mod of the same game. So only time will tell, especially if I get more than just 2 hours to play it. Not throwing shade, I just want more time, okay? Yeah, so we've got our park trying to provide more power to the park now. You can make a large fuel center if you want to, or a large power center. And we're placing more viewing sections and trying to connect those to the paths. As I also was mentioning, I'm quite proud of how I was able to get the pathways to be somewhat in the center of the park with all the viewing areas around it. But this will have to remind me in the future to try to build something where I can go off to other sections of the park via monorail. This park map is kind of shaped like it's almost like a candy. If you've ever seen a peppermint before, it's kind of a large round circle in the middle with 2 off sections. So it's kind of like a wavy figure, almost like an hourglass, but in the opposite sense. And it's going to be quite narrow to fit through some of these other places. So transit will be much more important, at least in this map. And I really hope to see people use it. This one thing that I think I did not really use as much as I wanted to in the previous game, and always tried to do if I could. Playing this does make me want to go into the previous game too and compare a lot more in an actual series so I could tell the difference. Oh boy.
See any resemblance between the Nasutoceratops and modern-day cattle? Look closely at the horns and their relation to the eyes. It's clear to me that as we bring these animals back to life, the connections between the past and the present sharpen, and along with it, our understanding. This is what my science is all about.
I do like hearing a new voiceover every time that a new dinosaur is released that kind of focuses on their features and tells you, all about the sabotage.
We need to look for both specialists and generalists when it comes to scientists for the park. The animals will benefit from a diverse workforce of scientists.
Hopefully so. So we're going to purposely anger our scientists by trying to give them a lot of work, and I'm trying to balance some of those at the same time too, so we'll see how it all plays out momentarily. Something bad is about to happen, I have a feeling. The park is looking beautiful. Another thing I hope to have that I did not see is, and it could be in there, is the ability to restrict the day-night cycle. I would like to build all during the day. It does help to see the passage of time, so that way we can kind of keep track of how long it's been since we maybe went back and checked at our ability to create the dinosaur DNA or go looking for fossils, or perhaps just kind of see the park in a different light. But I want to see it during the daytime when I'm building it, and then maybe go into a day-night cycle as I admire it, same as if I built a city in City Skylines. All right, so we have ourselves another little power section here that's being fueled up, and I do find that I wish there was a way to make that automatic. There doesn't seem to be a way to do that. So you need to manage your research, you need to manage your power, you need to manage your dinosaurs, you need to build your park, you want your park to look good, you also want to manage your guests. Oh man, it's quite a lot to juggle. But most importantly, you want to make sure your dinosaurs are happy. I always feel a special responsibility to try to keep them as happy as possible, although it doesn't always work out, Sometimes they get glitched out in a corner. I've had that happen before, and they don't come eat. I'm also looking at you, Planet Zoo, for doing that. I've lost many a good dinosaur that way, or, well, animal. But all right, so we've got helicopters coming in to now try to tranquilize and monitor some of our dinosaurs. One thing I was just thinking about is perhaps with that little harvest station there, or rather the hatchery is what I want to say. It would be cool if we could also put a helipad on the top of that and be able to transport some of the dinosaurs in a cage before they're released into the wild. So once they're ready in their little habitat, their pre-holding area before they're released into the wild, it'd be cool if they could then be tranquilized within the facility, have a chopper pick them up on the roof, and then bring them to where they need to go. So that way you can release it directly or transport it if needed. Just small things. I'm just trying to come up with ideas. Are you laughing at me? I thought it was a good idea. Wow, you're pretty. Okay. So now we've got even more dinosaurs in the park. And now we've got more things to build to be able to see them. Our park rating is increasing a lot due to a few things. Keep in mind, we need to make sure that our dinosaurs can be seen by the public, to make sure that they're happy themselves. Also, what types of dinosaurs and the genetic modifications that can be done to them as well. As number 4 says on their list, it says we're bringing players more creative customization and management options that have never than ever before, such as customizing guest buildings. Now, again, that does seem to be the case where we can modify what's inside the building to attract other clientele, but I've not seen anything where I can customize my own building myself. I really want to be able to do that, where I can do my own thing and have my own park that only I can make, or that I've at least put a lot of extra time into. Maybe some people want a more quick experience. It does take quite some time to build in this game, as it, of course, every dinosaur has to be researched. You can't just go out and find them. You do have to find the DNA, splice that all together, and then create a viable genome that can then be released into the wild.
Hey
So
guys,
here...
just wanted to jump in and say we've got about 10 minutes left of this
Oh,
session.
see? There you go. Our guy there telling us that we had about 10 minutes. So, yeah, as we're wrapping things up, I'm keeping an eye on the time and trying to build as much as I can pathway-wise. A very nice group, by the way. They were very informative, very hands-off, let us do whatever we want. I was with a few other people, too, who seemed to be quite excited to play and who'd played previous games as well of the Jurassic World building series. My original experience with this was Jurassic Park Genesis, which did allow you to build a lot of the things that you see here. Did have like an ability to have kind of not a monorail system, but the the Safari system, and that allowed you to build, of course, a little line going through each of the enclosures, and then guests could see them up close. And this kind of has that as well with the gyrospheres, or whatever the actual name of it was. And that is cool if we can modify that to be more like the original. I believe the original game, too, Jurassic World Evolution, had a DLC making things a little closer to the original Jurassic Park. And that was cool. I really am wanting an experience closer to the original movies. That's where my nostalgia lies, and that's where my movie magic was forever. The standards are high because of Steven Spielberg and that whole technical team of animatronics and such, but even CGI in that movie was aged pretty well. So you can tell it's getting a little rough, but this game has a lot of important fans to appease because, man, oh man, that the dinosaurs are loved by everybody, like from the age of birth. Like the moment you're born, it's like, where are the dinos? So we have some more power being filled up here. We have to monitor our facilities quite often. I don't think they need pathways connected to them. Although I really feel like in my mind I want to build everything where it's somewhat connected or close to a pathway. And now we have sabotage. So one of the gates there you saw in the left corner has been opened up. Maybe several of them have been opened up. But the dinosaurs will try to make a beeline for that gate now that it's open. They immediately will detect that it's basically wide open. And we're going to go ahead and deploy our team to tranquilize them and stop them and bring them back into the little enclosure there. It doesn't get too out of hand. Our park hasn't been open that long, so luckily it's not a situation where anybody really dies, but it is good to see that at least something different will happen. Somewhat annoying if you're trying to build a park and don't want the staff to get in your way. On the other hand, realistic as to what always goes down in the movies and kind of, another thing to keep track of, which will make you much more pro as you experience things over time. Balancing guest needs, employee needs, and then, of course, dinosaur needs is something that can be easily overlooked. Though I don't see a way to manage or hire staff. That is something I don't recall from the previous game and haven't seen here yet so far either. So hopefully both games, or at least this game, will have that at some point. Perhaps a way to include that. But I don't think it's something I really necessarily need. I would much rather prefer to take care of the dinosaurs and their needs and then have guests come in to view them. A little similar to Planet Zoo. Now, we don't get a chance, unfortunately, to build our medical center and make use of it, but we do try to put down most of the buildings here and all of the different types of gates. It is a beautiful-looking world, though. If this were a city builder or a theme park builder or perhaps a resort builder, this looks good. This is, I think, amongst the standard of new city builder games or building games or management games or tycoon games that I'd like to see. I've really admired the way that the whole building aspect's going. But now it's time to burn some rubber, baby. So as we can see here, very nice detail around the car driving. The grass is kind of bending as we drive over it. It's good detail on things like this. And the engine sounds really nice, too. Really? Oh, yeah. I think I was messing around here to see if it were broken or what I could do if some funny glitch would happen, but I guess not. Well, let's try to drive real fast back to base. And we'll wrap things up here. Some employees around. Nice detail at the buildings. Oh, here we go. Woo! All right, there we go. A nice little drive around the park. I like that. I really want there to be a way to be able to maybe make back roads or something so I can drive around that type of thing. Be nice. All right, so a little bit more on assigning scientists here to, you know, some of the dino extraction if we can. Oh, yes, and the nice, very nice security section where we can see all of the enclosures we made and what's inside them. Helpful for management. I like that view a lot. The blue view with all the fences shows where all of our things are laid out nicely. Okay, I'm trying to get all the dinosaurs out that we've got access to in this short amount of time. I've really liked what I've seen so far. Think some of the things could be changed or are different, hopefully upon release. There's quite some ways till that, and this isn't really necessarily a review because we don't really have a game here. We just have a little taste, a snippet of what's to come. It's really like biting off maybe the corner of a sandwich and judging it that way. I don't want to do that. But I am optimistic about having a great campaign and new game modes and new things to build with in those game modes, and I hope that everybody else also thinks it's great and gives good feedback to even make it better. And, of course, DLCs and free patches and things to come along to enhance our experience. I certainly don't mind at all any sort of things related to Jurassic Park or Jurassic World, including new places to build, new things to build with, and, of course, vehicles. Dinosaurs will always be included here, but in this scenario, we don't really get too much time to build any of the flying dinosaurs or any of the marine dinosaurs just yet. Did try to look for them. If I could build it, I would. We will have to do research to get to some of that stuff. So if you're wanting to see some of the aquatic dinosaurs or any of the flying dinosaurs, it's just something that we have to research an enclosure for. But here's one of our last ones coming out. And boy, is he a spiny boy.
Well, what have we here? It's an Amargasaurus, according to the paperwork I have in front of me. Another interesting factoid. Its long neck meant it probably liked to feed on the taller branches of trees and such. At least that's what it says. Guess we'll find out, huh?
Ah, yes. So I want to take one more look at our park. In this short time, we've really come a long way in building a lot of enclosures and getting some guests in here and a nice little central hub for everyone to see as many of the dinosaurs in the shortest amount of time. There you can see the park layout with small sections on the top or bottom or left or right of the main entrance. And, yeah, I think we can also make entrances into the park anywhere we want. There did seem to be a buildable structure where guests can come in from... Excuse me, sir. I'm speaking. Yes, where they can come in from underneath the under the park. Wow, that truck actually took damage. Nice. Little damage there. And, yeah, the dinosaurs get quite aggressive sometimes. We'll see how that pans out in the future, if that'll be too aggressive where it'll damage the Rangers' vehicles too much where they can't do their job. It looks like they lost a tire or something. Get out of there, boys. Get out of there. Jeez, we don't have that kind of insurance. Man. All right, well, that is it, ladies and gentlemen, for our look at Jurassic World Evolution 2. Join me in our live stream and, of course, for some more footage. Thank you for subscribing, and I'll see you all very soon.